Hello everyone and welcome to another Travelling with the Stars podcast. And today we're going to do, hello Karen.
Hello Ty.
How are we?
We're fine, thank you.
That's left over from our radio show. We always used to do that on the radio show, asking each other how we were. Are you okay?
Oh, stop it. Let's just
Gonna
get
help
on
me in a
with
minute.
this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, okay.
So this podcast, we're in Romania.
Romania.
Yes. And we got to Romania via our river cruise that we were on.
From Budapest to Bucharest.
That's right. And so, but tonight it's about Romania and Bucharest, in fact, where we decided that we would stay for a few days. And on the river cruise, or whilst we disembarked the river cruise, we boarded a bus for the ride into Bucharest, and then we were taken on a guided walking tour of Bucharest whilst our luggage was being transferred to our hotel. And the hotel was actually the Intercontinental Hotel in Bucharest.
A very nice hotel, I might add.
A very nice hotel, yes, very close into the main part of the city. Bucharest is a clean city, lots of tree-lined streets, or probably should be called boulevards.
Boulevards, yes, because we were
Yes.
there on a Sunday, weren't we?
We were, yes.
And they had actually one or two of those streets blocked off.
They did, for people to walk. So no cars were in there. It was all a walking street and lots of people around. It was a beautiful day as well.
It was.
And in Bucharest, they have an Arc de Triomphe, which honours the Roman soldiers who fought in World War II. And so when you first drive around Bucharest, you sort of think, oh, they've copied the French Arc de Triomphe, but no, it's their own Arc de Triomphe, a little bit smaller than the French one. We saw the Royal Palace, which is now part of the National Museum of Art, which is situated in Royal Palace Square. And that was the scene of the riots in 1989 because the people wanted to get rid of their communist dictator, Nicolae Ceausescu.
The reason I'm laughing is because our associate producer, a.k.a. Lily the Cat, is flicking Karen's chair button. She's trying to lower her, I think. Trying to lower the conversation.
I think so.
Anyway, continue
Get
on.
attention. So Bucharest is often called the Paris of the East, and mostly because of the extravagant French architecture and the beautiful wide boulevards. A few little snippets of Bucharest history.
Oh, go for it. Ding, ding. History.
Bucharest Castle fortification was first mentioned in 1459. In 1595, Ty's friends the Ottomans came in and destroyed the main residence of Wallachia.
The good old footstools.
The footstools. They stayed in control until 1877. In 1859, Wallachia and Moldavia merge and Romania is born. In 1947, Romania becomes the People's Republic of Romania. And in 1989, a December revolution overthrows Ceausescu, and along with his wife, he is executed, but not before thousands of lives were lost under his regime and during the revolution against him. But many of the majestic buildings that you see standing in Romania today were built during the communist dictator's time, and he wanted buildings to be oversized. And they are certainly oversized.
They are oversized. There's no mucking around with that.
Exactly. Our guide told us that hundreds of thousands of Romanian population starved whilst he spent billions on building such places as Parliament House and other magnificent buildings. And they are magnificent.
They
You
are.
can't
Look,
say that they aren't, because they are.
people should have a look at our Facebook page because we did put a considerable amount of photos on there when we were there back in June of 2024. And
Yes.
you and I were back there, 2020. I think we were there first, weren't we? Or 21?
No, that was Belgrade.
Belgrade?
Yes.
No, Budapest. When we were in Budapest the first
Why are
time.
you talking about Budapest?
Oh, I'm
We're
sorry.
talking
I'm getting
about
mixed up.
Bucharest.
Yes, I got mixed up.
I think Ty's had too much of the bubbles today.
I'll
He's
just
getting
have
a
another-
little bit.
another
He's
glass
just
of-
getting a little bit mucked up.
I'll have my little
So
bubbles.
we'll move on to Bucharest and sights to see, and there's lots. The Parliament building, as we mentioned, it's the second largest in the world, as well as the boulevard leading to it. It's quite amazing. Ceausescu forcibly relocated 70,000 people, cleared 12 churches, 3 monasteries, and completely destroyed the Jewish quarter and 3 synagogues so he could remodel that whole area. And basically, what's standing is the Houses of Parliament, isn't it? And just a massive, wide blank area.
It is. It's quite huge.
It is. So the Parliament building
And
has...
I did get all photos of that, and that is on Facebook as well.
Good, I'm pleased. The Parliament building has thousands of rooms, and the Boulevard Unieri, which is 4 kilometres in length with hundreds of fountains lining the boulevard, leads to the Parliament building from the main part of town. Calais Victoriae is another boulevard with beautiful buildings. These were built in 1877. They're neoclassical building, and one of the largest ones is the Museum of Romanian History.
Roman history.
I know, I forgot the IAN. Romanian history.
Now who needs another drink?
I know. It contains collections from Roman and Dacian times.
What are you drinking, by the way?
Bellini.
A Bellini.
You can now buy it
I wonder
in a
why it was a bit
bottle,
orange. It looked a
pre-mixed.
bit orange for wine.
I'm trying a pre-mixed bottle of Bellini.
Oh, okay. Continue on.
Thanks. Also on this boulevard is said to be one of the most beautiful buildings in the city, the CEC Bank. Trust the bank to have the best
Well, of
best
course,
building.
yes.
The Church of St. Nikolai Mihai Voda is dated back to 1590.
Why does that sound like it should be Japanese or Chinese?
I don't know. It dated back to 1590 and was relocated over the river Damboija on Ceausescu's orders. Need to move that out of my way. If you're looking,
Don't like it, get it out of my sight.
that's right. If you're looking for any semblance of a medieval town, you'll find it around the Straza Livskani, a pedestrian zone which belongs to the old merchants' quarter. If churches are of interest, there are a few to visit. One in particular is Stavropolios
A
Church.
few, that's an understatement.
Built in 1724, it has excellent paintings with an oriental influence. And through its arcades and arabesques, arabesques, which is a style that has flower, fruit and animal outlines producing an intricate pattern, for those who don't know.
I'm feeling a bit arabesque.
Are you?
Yes.
Can't see any such patterns on you. Some other places of interest are
I changed my shirt.
Romanian Athenaeum Concert Hall, built in 1888, and Museo Satulei, situated in Herestral Park, is village museum showcasing typical village life in the 18th and 19th century.
You're doing very well with those words.
Am I?
Yes.
Given you're interrupting all the time, I wonder I remember where I'm up to.
Well, I'm just saying.
Right. After a guided tour, remember our guided tour?
I do.
And during
We
our
did some
guided
walking.
tour, she had to take somebody to the pharmacy, didn't she?
They needed a chemist.
Yes, they
A
did.
Bex and a good lie
Go
down.
down. We stopped for lunch after
Can
the
you
tour.
face the microphone, please?
I am.
Okay.
And so many places to choose from. So we decided on a little place in a pedestrian street. Wandering around the streets, we came across a shopping street with a combination of shops and restaurants. A large section of the street was closed to traffic, which was good because it was quite busy. There was a small parade happening. We can't remember what it was for, though. Maybe because it was Sunday.
No, we were hungry.
We were hungry.
We wanted
yeah.
lunch.
Yeah.
as usual.
We figured it was time for a drink and found a table on the footpath to sit and watch the passing parade. And the passing parade of people and dogs came along after the main parade, where people were dressed up in costumes and things. So
Oh, it was entertaining.
It was entertaining. The sun was shining, so it was a very pleasant afternoon, and the five of us had a great time. We eventually decided to wander back to the hotel. We collected our luggage and checked in. The hotel is excellent. Our rooms were very large and very comfortable, weren't they?
Yeah, can't complain about the room.
No.
We were disappointed we were only there for one night.
I know.
We could have easily stayed there for a couple.
A couple of nights. After a night here, we would officially end our river cruise and with Avalon, and the next morning, after breakfast, our guide would collect us. And what a breakfast that was, wasn't it?
I was in little piggy heaven.
Where people would have stayed there all day eating breakfast. There was just
Are you referring to me?
you and some of the others.
Yes, I know. It was nice.
The breakfast food options.
I remember the donut house.
Oh, yes, that's right.
It was a house made out of donuts that you could eat.
Well, you don't need to have donuts you can't eat, do you?
Well, no, but they said, because it looked so pretty, and they said, no.
And what,
no,
you didn't want to eat them?
Well, it was tough.
Yes,
I can
and
tell you.
they served Bellinis at breakfast.
They did.
Champagne or a Bellini you could
You're
have
in-
at breakfast. So it was pretty good.
Piggy heaven, weren't you?
Yeah, stay there. So if you go to Bucharest, book yourself into the Intercontinental. You won't be disappointed.
What was the prices like for it?
I don't know.
Because it was part of our trip. And you did look up
But it
and
is
check?
Bucharest. No, I haven't. But it is Bucharest, so it wouldn't have been too bad.
Okay.
The large rooms and the best breakfast we've had, except for the Ritz in London and the Ritz in Paris.
Funny man, a bit of a Ritz theory there.
Yeah, so we've
Not to
stayed.
mention the cost. Hello.
I know. We've stayed in hundreds of hotels and a few chateaux, and this breakfast would come in third on our breakfast list.
That's a big call.
No, it's all right, Paul.
Yeah.
If you think about it, the Ritz London and the Ritz in Paris, pretty good, but this one was very good. Other hotels have your breakfast, and yes, they have the eggs and bacon and stuff, but they didn't have what this one
I tell
had.
you what I was very impressed with on this trip, if you're talking about breakfast, that little hotel down on the coast of where we picked up our people from Croatia.
Opea.
Was it Opea? That little hotel there, that was a good brekkie too.
Yes, it wasn't too
I was
bad,
very impressed.
but it didn't get on the top three.
Okay.
On my top three.
On your
Anyway,
top three, right.
on my top three.
It's only because they serve booze.
So perhaps we do need to have a
A
breakfast list.
Oh, okay.
Best breakfast list.
Yeah.
So it's time to start putting a few different type of lists together, isn't
Lifts.
it? Lists.
We're going to put a lift together. What about the river cruise for breakfast?
That was okay.
Because they make everything there and then as you ask for it.
Yeah, they do.
You can't knock it back.
Anyway, we had to drag some of the group away, as I said, from the breakfast because we had to get packed for our 9 o'clock pickup for the start of our private Romanian tour that I had organised. However, before I go on, I think I'll mention our weather so far.
Oh, do you have to?
Yes, and it was June, and unfortunately, the weather this June was cold and wet in most places. It was a bit disappointing. We had a couple of sunny days, but not enough. Not what we had last June.
No.
The year before, we had excellent weather, 30
Shorts and
degrees.
T-shirts.
Yeah, this time it wasn't like that.
Jeans, T-shirts and puffer jackets.
Yeah, that was you, George. Yes,
Which is very unusual because normally I wear shorts here in winter, so it was cold.
it was very cold. And needless to say, I had packed mostly summer clothing with a couple of items for Romania, assuming that it may be a little cold. I was very wrong, and you left your wet weather jacket at home, so I think I'm blaming you for the bad weather.
Yep, I did.
I think
First
that's,
time in a long time I forgot the wet weather jacket, and boy did we need it.
And I think that was, yes, your problem. So a little piece of trivia. On this trip, we learned that Bulgaria, Serbia and Croatia all use the Slavic language, whereas the Romanian language is based on Latin, which I thought that was a bit interesting. But I
was
guess that was the Roman influence.
However, just about everyone speaks English.
They do. It's pretty good.
So
Yeah, don't have any
actually
problems.
they're probably one of the most English-friendly countries we've been to in that area.
English friendly.
Well,
You
as
mean
in English speaking.
No. Hungary's pretty much.
Yeah, Hungary's pretty good compared to Italy.
Yeah, well, they choose not to speak the language. So because I wasn't too aware of what Romania would be like, I just chose a 3-night, 4-day tour in Romania, and that was another little birthday present to myself.
Happy birthday.
Because
to
normally
you.
I'm one of these people that if somebody wants to go somewhere and I want to go somewhere else and they're coming with us, I'll do what they want to
It's
be
like
nice.
Istanbul. How many years you been trying to get there? And guess
I
what?
don't know, 30 or 40 years.
You're finally going to
I'm
get
finally
there.
going to get there. I can't
Yes.
believe that.
Yes. A couple of weeks and you're there. Or 1 week for you.
Yeah. So anyway, so I let our travelling companions know what the plans were for Ty and I after the river cruise, and 6 of our travelling companions decided to join the tour with us. I had Transylvania on my list to visit for quite some years. As many of you may have gathered from our programs, I love history and especially ancient history, right through to the early 19th century, so then it becomes a bit more modern. These formerly Eastern Bloc countries hold a particular fascination. So I chose the short trip. As I said, I wasn't sure what to expect. And we had a tour guide and driver who would look after us for the whole
Because
tour.
normally I'm the driver.
You normally are, but again, we weren't sure
What to expect. So
Yeah,
we thought, let's play it safe until we know what it is.
exactly. And our guide/driver was fabulous. And part of this tour...
Very knowledgeable. I had
Very
trouble getting that word out.
Yeah, he was very good and very patient. Part of this tour was to
Yes,
follow
but-
the steps of Vlad the Impaler and in part his father Vlad II, also known as Vlad the Dragon. He was made a member of the Order of the Dragon in 1431. Also, Vlad Dracula is the dragon name, sorry. He was assassinated in 1447. He was a prince of Wallachia from 1443 till his assassination. And Vlad the Impaler and his brother Radu were held hostage in 1442 by the Ottomans to ensure their father's loyalty. Vlad the Impaler was said to be a very cruel person. During a war with the Saxons, he took prisoners back to Wallachia and had them impaled, hence the name. There's lots more to his story, but we're interested in what to see in Romania. You can always check on his story.
As we always say, Google it.
That's right. So over this 4 days, we would be visiting Sinaia, Snagov, Raznov, Viskry, Sigosora, and Piatra Kruli National Park and Brasov. Not necessarily in that order, of course.
Could you repeat that again quickly?
No.
Okay.
Our driver guide was Marius, and as I said, he was very good, and he arrived at the Intercontinental right on time at 9 a.m. Our first stop was 45 k's out of Bucharest, and that was Snagov Lake. And in the middle of the lake is a monastery of the same name as the lake. Now, you don't need to go out by boat because there's a bridge
there's one bridge
from the mainland that
you had
takes
to walk across it.
Had
so
to walk across.
It's probably about a kilometre walk.
Yeah. The monastery was built around the time of Vlad the Impaler's grandfather, Mircea the Old, and the monastery became famous as the burial place of the King of Wallachia, who was to become the inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula. The monastery also became a place of punishment. There was a small cell in which Vlad invited his victims to kneel in front of a statue of the Virgin Mary. Then he would open the trapdoor and the guest would fall into a ditch below where stakes took upright, ready to impale the victim.
Yep. It's one way to get invited to a barbecue, I suppose.
Exactly. I think I looked at that.
You did.
I stood on it.
I was looking for the lever.
Yeah, I'm sure you were.
I would never do that now.
Wouldn't you?
No.
Not when there's people around
No,
anyway.
exactly. Not so I can get caught.
We were told that they know this because they found decapitated skeletons to prove the crimes. Vlad and his father were both buried at the monastery because they had given funds for the build. The monastery was first listed in 1408. It has had a few remodels and repairs since then. It's a tiny little building, but the frescoes inside are quite incredible. They cover every inch of it, don't they?
It was really interesting. I've never seen that done before.
Oh, every inch. Thank goodness they sealed the trapdoor, because like I said, I kneeled at the Virgin Mary statue without thinking about possible consequences. Incredibly, this monastery had an emu, goats, and several other animals in there. They were all looked after by the caretaker. And the roses in the gardens were lovely as well.
Actually, some really nice roses, and we like roses. We've got quite a few in our garden.
Yeah, so it was lovely to see the big blooms on the roses. Vlad the Impaler's, or his proper name was Vlad Tepe, or Tepes, or Teps. His gravestone...
I think Tepe sounds more...
Yeah. That's more French, isn't it? Tepe. His gravestone is inside the monastery. I walked over it again without realising what it was because I was looking at the ceiling. And I wouldn't normally walk on a gravestone. But anyway, Lake Snagov is a huge lake, and Marius told us it was a very popular holiday destination for Romanians.
Yeah, you can see it would be
in the summertime, it'd be beautiful.
We were there in summer.
We were, but the weather wasn't summery. No.
Very winter.
No. So after this, we travelled on through the Prahova Valley.
The what?
Prahova Valley.
Okay.
Through Bastini, where we saw amazing views of the peaks of the Busegi Mountains. And in the towns, we drove through some of the retail stores, cafes and restaurants. And they had their signs in English, didn't they?
They did.
That was something unexpected.
Yeah.
So we knew then that obviously English is well catered for.
Yep, prime language.
Yeah. We were heading to the town of Bran and the castle of the same name, Bran Castle. But lunch, of course, was first priority.
Got to have lunch.
Got to have lunch. We pulled into a small parking area and we could see the top part of Bran Castle on our right rising up through the trees. So we weren't that far away. Marius took us into Casa din Bran Inn, which had a restaurant at the front with large glass windows with views to the castle. They had a comprehensive menu, didn't they? So obviously they
had lots, yeah.
They were used to having...
Remind me of a diner. Their definition of a diner.
Yeah, it did.
Here's the menu, and drops down. There's about 40 pages.
I chose the grilled chicken, which came with a tiny side salad, You had chicken schnitzel and chips, didn't you?
I
yes,
did.
Your,
I
your
felt like a
normal
snitty-
thing you'd have, a chicken schnitzel and chips.
Well, I was sort of I wasn't sure of their foods. I was taking the safer option to start with.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a safer option.
Mm.
Some weren't happy with their chickens. Either it was too small or was a little pink in places. And we've always been taught that you don't eat chicken if it's still a little pink.
Unless you're really hungry.
Well, no, I don't know even then. My grilled chicken was cooked properly and was flavoursome. It's worthwhile to remember that when we're travelling, especially to emerging tourist destinations, food will be presented or cooked differently to us. 2 words I think are very important when travelling. Adaptable. You really need to be able to adapt to the idiosyncrasies of the country that you're in. And the other word is accept. Accept that nothing may be the same as home. And I think
I agree.
Don't you agree on that one?
Look, if you
There's
go
other
with the
words.
flow, you'll enjoy your holiday a
Yeah.
lot more.
Exactly.
And as you say, it's not going to be like home. It's going to be completely different. But just chill out and go
right.
with it. If something's not quite as you think it's going to be, chill out,
Just
relax,
move on.
go with the flow. And we find we very rarely get disappointed because if it's not what we're thinking it should be, we look for what the positives are with it and just go from there.
Yep. And with Romania, really, didn't have any expectation of what I was going to see or do. I just knew where I wanted to go. And I think that was probably a good thing that helped.
Yeah, definitely.
Helped with that. But anyway, back to our trip. After lunch, Marius took us to Bran Castle. The entrance to the castle area was a very short walk from the restaurant, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
It was across the road, through the car park.
Yeah.
Of course, there were lots of street stalls as we got closer to the castle, but our first priority was to visit the castle. As you would expect, the castle is not sitting on level ground, but up a rather steep incline with a lovely set of steep steps taking you into the interior of the walls and then, eventually, the castle itself.
We love a good walk.
Yeah, we do. We don't mind. And we know that if you go to these places, you've got to walk. So Bran Castle was built in 1377 by the Saxons of Kronstadt. Louis I of Hungary granted them permission to build it and is a landmark and national monument of Transylvania. Of course, we know the Saxons were German, don't we, Ty?
Of course we do.
And there is an interesting history.
Whatever you say, Dee.
And there is an interesting history on Bran Castle for those lovers of Dracula stories. There doesn't seem to be any evidence that Vlad the Impaler actually had much of a role in the history of Bran. Sometime around 1920, the Treaty of Trianon was signed and Hungary lost Transylvania, and the Saxons decided the old castle would require too much work, so they gave it back to the royal family, the Habsburgs, and Marie of Romania used it as a retreat. Her daughter, Princess Elena, inherited the castle, but after World War II, the communist regime seized the castle again in 1948 and evicted the royal family from the country. In 2000, they were lucky that they weren't killed like the Romanovs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In 2005, a law was passed by the government which allowed people to claim back property taken by the communists. 12 months later, the castle was given back to Archduke Dominic of Austria, who was the son of Princess Elena. A little to and fro, yes they own it, no they don't, continued for a couple of years until 2009 when it was transferred to the Archduke and his sisters, again the Habsburgs. That's right. They opened Bran Castle as the first private museum in the country, and you'll find much more historical information either at the castle or online. But we want to tell you why you should visit Bran.
Definitely. Yep, definitely.
Bran Castle is what fairy tale castles look like, isn't it?
There were Neuschwanstein.
Neuschwanstein is another fairy tale castle, but Bran was built before Neuschwanstein.
Yeah, much before, yeah.
So when you're in the inner courtyard, you look up to see fabulous turrets reaching for the sky, smaller turrets, a wooden veranda that goes from turret to turret, and you're able to walk around the interior of the castle, aren't you? The inside the walls, you just
go
turret to
everywhere.
turret. Stop along your veranda walk to take in the scenery below the walls and way out in the distance. Inside those interested in all things supernatural should take the very narrow stone case to the 4th floor. Stone staircase, not a stone case. Well, it is a case. It's like a little box, wasn't it?
You have another drink, Dee?
I will. To the fourth floor.
I'll do it while you're talking.
As this area is dedicated to supernatural characters, werewolves, the Lely, the Grim Reaper, the Solomonary, and more. They introduced these rooms by saying, "We are entering the alarming kingdom of Romanian mythology. This floor of all things ghoulish is a virtual space." And Ty will explain.
In other words, it's not really there, it's all video and stuff. Yeah.
Yes, it's all virtual. You're just looking at things
projected onto
projected
walls
onto
and that
things,
sort.
yes.
I sort of looked through the door, but didn't bother.
No. Although one statue is life-size, remember that one statue?
Yeah.
And you guessed it, that's Vlad the Impaler, called the cruelest reigning prince of Wallachia. And for the rest of us interested in the true history of Bran Castle, we will find information on the royal family starting with Crown Prince Ferdinand, who became King Ferdinand I of Romania in 1914. And he married a British princess, Maria Alexandra Victoria of Saxe-Coburg, in 1892. He passed away in 1927. And when you visit the castle, you will read the history of this king and what he did for Romania. The rooms in the castle and the furniture they weren't really ornate, were they?
Basic, really,
very
weren't they?
Basic, very basic for given that all the castles we've been inside of. Lots of carved...
Unlike, what was the castle? I'm trying to think of the castle name now that we did a couple of days later before we left Roma. Palais Castle. Yeah. Oh, now that was a castle.
We'll talk about
we'll have to do that
on another podcast because that's got lots to...
Oh, has it what?
But this castle had lots of carved wooden pieces. There was a torture room in one of the turrets as well.
You wouldn't come in.
You had to pay extra to go in there.
No, you wouldn't come in.
You didn't go in at all.
I was thinking about it.
You didn't want to go in.
But only if you went with me.
Oh, I wasn't going in there. The gift shop is on the way to the castle walls exit area, and of course it does sell items such as fridge magnets, T-shirts, calico shopping bags, and more with Dracula and the bats on them.
Couldn't find a baseball cap though.
No, you couldn't. You'll also find Bran Castle goods and books on the history of the castle and the royal family, and I bought one of the books because I'm more interested in that than I am in the Dracula legend. The gardens outside were lovely with a beautiful lake and a weeping willow tree on one edge, so very picturesque. There's also a cafe next to the lake, which would be lovely on a sunny afternoon.
It wasn't sunny when we were in.
It was not sunny at all.
No, it was raining.
So that was Bran, and after Bran, our next stop was Razanov Fortress, built by the Teutonic Knights. And over the centuries, it has been a military...
Sounds like a band.
The Teutonic...
Introducing the Teutonic Knights.
Well, there you go. It could be a name for a band, couldn't
disco.
it? I don't know that they were too much into discoing, these Teutonic Knights. Over the centuries, it's been a military outpost and also a refugee for the locals during any conflict. Of course, it had a big role in the defence of Transylvania against Ty's friends, the Ottomans.
The footstools.
And others, yes. It's a medieval fortress in all ways. Architecture, structure, and of course it's situated on top of a very high mountain. It's a fabulous, well-preserved medieval fortress, and the views of the town and landscape are quite incredible. I've enjoyed that particular fortress.
It was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Who else went up there with us?
No, only you and I went to the top.
Yeah.
Everyone else piked it.
Did they? Nobody else? Yeah, that's right. It was quite a hike up the top, wasn't it?
It was.
But it was very interesting, and well worth it. Although I have to say we're learning that Romania's fortresses and castles are not for the faint-hearted.
No.
They are, as I said, on top of incredibly steep hills and mountains, and you have to walk from the parking area to these fortresses. Lots of hiking to the top and then ancient steps. But they're well worth the effort if you can do it. Take it slow and steady is the best advice, don't you think?
It was well worth it because I made up for it at dinner.
Yeah, well...
We were averaging 20,000
I don't think you needed to walk that far to make up for dinner, but I do think that a lot of people, when they go, so if you're going to Romania, just think about that they can be tough walks up to the top and very steep, but the view is well worth it. I think it's well worth it anyway.
No, definitely.
So inside this fortress were houses, a whole community being protected from any marauders. Part of the fortress was carved in the stone of the rocky outcrop that they sit on. And after the Roman conquest, the Dacian fortress was abandoned. So that had been there since the Roman conquest, that fortress that we were in. We wandered around, saw the fountain, the triangular tower, the weapons tower, the Gothic tower, and the small barbican, and so much more in this one amazing place. A few steps, lots of wandering around. In fact, I would say this was one of the least strenuous walks, wasn't it, really?
No, at least we didn't have to climb any ladders on this one.
Exactly. So this was the least strenuous. So if they say you're going on a tour and you're going to Brasov, yeah, you could walk that one. Internal areas did have stairs, but you could wander around the outside quite comfortably. One part was challenging, the walk around the outside of the fortress on a rough track. Remember how he took us around that? But we all managed it.
Yeah.
It was just I don't think you could even put 2 feet together, could you?
Yeah, it was just a rough
like a goat track, yeah. So we'll move on now to Brasov. After Rasnov, we went then to the city of Brasov, which would be our base for the next 3 nights. And it's a very beautiful town.
I was surprised how clean, how neat it was.
I know.
The restaurants and the people, very friendly.
Yeah.
Especially once they found out we were Australian, they wanted to talk to us because they don't get many Aussies up there.
No, and they probably, as time goes on and people know about it, it'll get flooded. Yeah. But at the moment, it's still beautiful. It's well cared for. But I couldn't wait to explore it. But today had been a long day, so we just went and had dinner. I think Marius didn't give us time frames for each of the places we visited, so there was no, like when you're on a tour, you've got 10 minutes to look at this, or you've got 20 minutes here.
We really dived into everything.
That's right. When you have your own guide and driver, they look after you and you're not beholden to waiting for others. So he was excellent. He was very patient, and when we were all ready, we moved on to the next place, meaning that it was then 7 p.m. before we arrived in Brasov. I think in the itinerary it said 5 p.m. arrival. Yeah. But we'd had a fabulous day. I had a very enjoyable day seeing the sights.
We were tired.
Not sure about everybody else, but it was just fascinating. Some were tired and happy to have a rest. I think that started to show at Rasnov, where you and I were the ones that spent the most time taking in the points of the interest in the fortress. But that's understandable. Some people don't walk like we do.
Not true.
Our hotel in Brasov was the Prince Gregor, and it would be our base for the next 3 nights. It was less than a 10-minute stroll to the main square and all the eateries.
What did you call them? What are they called over there, though? It's not called a hotel.
Oh, the pension.
Pension, yeah.
Yeah, so that was our...
Because at first I thought it was like a B&B.
Yes, Ty thought, oh no, we're staying at somebody's house, No, we're not. It's called a pension, but it's actually like a little motel. It was very nice, yes. We checked in, freshened up, then headed to Council Square, which is the main square, and it is called Council Square. A beautiful large square, and it was lit up, possibly to welcome us to Brasov, I think, don't you?
Of course it was,
I think they knew we were here.
Keep facing the microphone, please, dear.
We chose a restaurant with blankets and heaters because, as I said before, it was cold. Dinner was good. We had wine and beers for a very reasonable price. No language issues at all. And I think that we'll probably leave our first day there.
Righto.
We'll move on next time.
Part 2.
Part 2. I
Romania,
think we'll have
part 2.
We'll have a different section of Romania on other things that we do with Pelé Castle and things.
That's a good idea. So that's Travelling with the Stars Part 1 of Romania.
Yes.
On this podcast, and we'll come back very soon and do Part 2.
Yes, we won't leave you hanging too long.
Oh, yeah, right.
No, we won't.
Well, don't forget you're disappearing soon, heading for Turkey.
We may get that done soon.
Righto. Hope you enjoyed our podcast. Well, don't forget to check us out on Facebook and on YouTube, and also pretty much everywhere else. We're all around the place these days.
You'll find us wherever we think we're not. That's where we'll be.
Travelling with the Stars, RRS, all one word. Just Google us, you'll find us. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.